In this video, we're going to learn how to plot a production function in Microsoft Excel. So I've started by simply opening up a brand new blank workbook in Microsoft Excel, and it's a little bit intimidating if you've never done this before because you get this blank screen with a grid on it. And what I like to do when I set one of these things up is start somewhere not on the edge, somewhere close to the edge, such as cell B3. And for this particular instance, what we're going to learn today, I'm going to start by creating a little table in Microsoft Excel. And that table is going to show a production function. It's going to demonstrate how inputs, represented by the variable X, are turned into outputs represented by the variable Y. We sometimes might call this total product. And I'm going to start by just entering in some numbers that I've just really picked at random for the value of X. I'm going to start with 10, and I'm just going to count up by tens. What you pick, what you use will be highly dependent on your specific situation if you find yourself needing to plot a production function. And I'm going to type an equal sign in the cell below that. Equal signs tell Excel that we're going to enter a formula. So we're going to make up our own formula to enter in Excel. And what I'm going to do here is show you how to set up a formula so Excel can do the counting for you. I'm going to simply click on the first value that I entered, the 10, type a plus sign, and then type 10. And what that'll do is add 10 to the number right above us, and I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to click on that cell B5, where the 20 is, and take my cursor and move it to the lower right-hand corner where I get the skinny plus sign. I like to call it the crosshairs. I'm going to click with my mouse and hold down. I'm left-clicking, and I'm just going to drag down. How far you need to go will be very dependent on the situation that you're faced and the numbers that you have. You have to be kind of flexible here, but I suspect that going down to cell B11 will be fine for me. That may not work for your particular situation. You'll have to kind of play with it a little bit and kind of get a feel for how to plot things in Excel and how far down you need to plot in order to show your production function. In this particular case, we have a formula for our production function, and that formula is 400 minus 100 times x minus x squared. We're just going to enter that formula in Excel. We'll type an equal sign. The equal sign, as always, is used to tell Excel we're entering a formula. Then we just type a negative sign in 400, and then we're going to hit plus 100 multiplied by x. To multiply, you use an asterisk. So I type the asterisk. Now I could type an x, but the problem with that is Excel is going to be looking for something different. Excel is going to be looking for a number at this point, or it's going to be looking for a thing called a cell reference. A cell reference is simply you telling Excel that the number Excel should be used is hiding in some specific cell. And in this case, the value for X that we're interested in is 10. So instead of typing in X, we're going to click on the number 10, and Excel will fill in the cell reference for us automatically, and it's color-coded. You can see that that is blue. Then we type a minus sign, and we're going to subtract x squared. Again, x is 10, so we're going to click on the 10, and then we're going to type a caret. So we're going to hit shift and 6, that's our caret, and type a 2, and that's how you raise something to the second power, or the third power, or the fourth power, whatever you need to raise it to in Microsoft Excel. And pretty much any other spreadsheet application on the face of the earth will follow this same pattern. We type an enter sign, and Excel is going to automatically calculate that for us. We don't need a calculator. We don't need to do anything by hand. We're just going to make sure that we're just going to use Excel to do the math for us. I've always said if you don't like doing math, Microsoft Excel is your best friend because all you have to do is set the math up, and Excel will do it for you. I'm going to click on that 500. I'm going to take my cursor and move it to the lower right-hand corner of cell C4, and I'm going to click the left mouse button, and I'm going to drag down. Now if you're using a Mac, this may be slightly different. You'll have to adjust what you do for the different computers that are out there. And now we're done creating our table showing our production function, showing the relationship between an input like fertilizer and an output like hay, an input like feed and an output like how much the animal weighs. Now I'm going to plot this, and this is really easy to do. I'm going to click on the X and hold the mouse button down. I'm going to drag over one time and then drag all the way down to the end of my table, highlighting all of my data. Then I'm going to click on the Insert ribbon. And over here in Charts, I want this chart right here. This is the XY chart. Sometimes they might call it a scatter chart. People are often tempted to insert a line chart here. That's not what we want. A line chart will plot X and it'll plot Y. What we want is just one line on the graph that shows X versus Y. So we click on this little downward arrow and we pick the one we like the best. I kind of like this one. You can pick whichever one you want. It really doesn't matter. Any of these scatter charts are just fine. And we click on it and Excel automatically makes the chart that we need. Let me make the space a little bigger so we can see what we've got. And I'm just gonna make that chart smaller so it fits on the screen that we see here in front of us. I've tinkered with my scale here with the hopes it'll be easier to see on video. And this is a good chart, but we need to do some more formatting and some more layouts on this chart. And in the design ribbon, there is a thing here. It says quick layout. So we hit the drop down menu for quick layout. And we just need to pick one that looks good. In this particular case, one that has axis titles and legends, that's what we're looking for. So we'll select that, we'll go into our axis title, and we'll change the axis title to anything you want as long as it's correct. So input would be correct, or X would be correct. And over here, we'll label this output. And we need a title, and in this case, the title can be output or it can be total product. Some economics textbooks call this total physical product. That would be an acceptable title as well. In this case, there's a legend, but the legend's kind of redundant because we only have one relationship shown on the graph, one line. If we had multiple lines, a legend naming those lines, describing those lines would be necessary. But in this case, it's just redundant information, and I'm a big fan of removing redundant information. So we're just going to delete the redundancy here. And we're done with plotting the total product curve. I'm just going to take that little graphic in Excel and I'm just going to drag it out of the way so we don't have to look at it anymore. And we'll start the next phase of understanding our production function and learning how to plot a production function. So the next thing we need to do is we need to plot the average product curve and the marginal product curve as a function of our input, X. So we're going to type in X for our input and make a header for a table. AP, which represents average product, and MP, which stands for marginal product. Moving down to the next line, we'll type an equal sign and click on our X value of 10 and just hit enter. Now the average products, next thing we'll do, we'll go to cell F4 and we'll type an equal sign and enter the formula for the average product. The average product is just the total product divided by the input. It's just Y divided by X. So we type an equal sign, we click on our specific value of Y we're interested in, 500, a slash to divide, and click on the 10. That's the value of X. So when X is 10, Y is 500, we press enter and we find that when X is 10, the average product is 50. It's average productivity. It tells us kind of like our bang for the buck. It tells us how much yield we get from a given amount of fertilizer we put on a field. The marginal product is a little more complicated concept. In this particular instance, we have a formula for calculating the marginal product. Many textbooks just simply explain it as the change in total product divided by the change in input. But it also just happens to be the first derivative of the total product curve. And if you happen to have a formula for the total product curve, why not just use the first derivative? And that formula for marginal product is going to be, again, type an equal sign so Excel knows we're entering a formula, and then 100 minus 2 times X. So that's the formula for our marginal product. Now, if you're paying attention, you notice that I've made a mistake. Let me show you what happens when I follow through with that mistake. Now, you'll notice what happened when I made that mistake. I typed an X into the formula and Excel didn't like that very much. The reason why is because Excel was looking for something different besides the letter X. It didn't know how to handle the letter X, so it just gave us an error message. Instead, what I should do is I should tell Excel where to find the number we want to use. And in this particular case, we want to use our first value of X, which is 10. So I click on cell E4. Again, it's color coded. And that's really handy. When I first started using Microsoft Excel, we didn't have these kind of options. So we press enter and we see the marginal product when X equals 10 is equal to 80. Now we're going to click on the number 10. And we're going to just hold our mouse down and drag over and highlight those numbers. And then we're going to take our cursor and take them to the lower right hand corner till we get the skinny little plus sign. We're going to click and we're going to hold down, drag those down. We let go and Excel has filled in the rest of the table for us. Again, if you don't like math, this is fantastic. There's no need to get a calculator out and punch numbers in. You simply let the machine do the work for you. Now we want to plot this. I'm going to click on the X. I'm going to hold my mouse down. I'm going to drag over, going to drag down. I'm going to go to the insert ribbon again, and I am going to insert once again an XY scatter chart. And there we go. We've got a nice chart. I'm going to just make it a little bit smaller so we can fit it all on the screen at once. And we need to do a little bit of work with it. So we're going to go to the quick layout on the design ribbon. And we're going to choose one of these that has axis titles on it. It really doesn't matter which one you use as long as it has them. On one axis, we're going to have X, or our input. And on the other axis, we're going to be putting AP and MP. And our chart title is going to be average and marginal product. And of course, Excel created us a nice legend. And that legend is right there, easy for us to see. And there's really no need to change it. Now there's some kind of thing here that Excel popped in. It's got a number, 80,15. I'm not honestly sure what that does. It's somewhere in the layout that we chose, give us that. I'm just going to try deleting it and see what happens. And there you go, nothing really happened. It worked just fine. Here's an 80,60. I guess that's the value at the end of the series. I don't know why it's there. But we can just delete things that we don't need. And now we're finished. We have our chart. It's done. Now what you have to do is you go forward and use this information to make your own charts and tables in Microsoft Excel. Is you have to kind of modify this. Nothing is going to look exactly like I've shown it to you ever in your life. You have to kind of think it through and make adjustments. Maybe you count by 5s or by 2 or by 1 instead of 10. Maybe you need to plot out until your you need to plot at least until your marginal product goes into the negative zone, at least till marginal product equals 0, so you can find stage 3 of the production function. You might have to plot 200 of these, which is not that big a deal because you can just drag down the spreadsheet almost infinitely. It's a very powerful tool, Microsoft Excel, and I hope that you learn how to use it. There will be days where being a master at Microsoft Excel will come in handy. Thank you very much for watching my video. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. Feel free to like my videos. And I hope that you'll come and watch the next one.